Either way, I gotta pay, but it makes more sense. More than just walls, windows and doors. Equity investment and wealth being stored. Kids playing tag in the backyard. Holidays spent with your loved ones. I love you. Without foundation.
All right, so I won't keep us any further. Thank you guys for being here. Hello, my name is Maybeth Morales-Davis, the Deputy Director of Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury. And again, thank you for being here today. A few housekeeping tips before we get started with the meeting. We're asking all folks to stay on mute. If you have any questions for the speaker, please write down your question in the chat text box. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. And if we don't get to your question tonight, we will email you directly. If you're experiencing any technical issues, the easiest fix is to log off and then log back in. But if your technical issues persist, please use the chat box to convey your message and somebody on the NHS team will try to assist you. Or you can contact our support team at 203-759-8814. And we will share that number in the chat box as well. And lastly, please note that this meeting is being recorded. So a little bit about NHS and who we are. Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury is a nonprofit, not Neighbor Works America HUD certified organization whose mission is to revitalize the community. Our programs include our homebuyer education and loss prevention, which allows families, individuals to take free classes and workshops around homeownership, landlordship, foreclosure prevention, etc. Our real estate development efforts are exactly what it sounds. We acquire new or used construction or properties and put those back on the market as affordable housing. Our community building and engagement work, which for short is CB&E, is really surrounded around our neighborhood and residents in our focus area of the Cronbrook neighborhood in Waterbury. We offer leadership training opportunities to sort of impact the neighborhood through advocacy, etc. On top of that, there are opportunities for neighbors to gather through activities and events right in the neighborhood. And of course, as a nonprofit, our fundraising and resource development arm is also a program that we run to help fund all the other programs. So just a reminder to stay on mute if you're joining us. Thank you for being here. And please visit our website if you want to find out more about all of those programs that I just mentioned. And the website is nhswaterbury.org. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce and welcome Kevin Taylor, our Executive Director. Kevin was born and raised in Waterbury, Connecticut. He's a graduate of Hampton University, and he serves NHSW as the public spokesperson for the organization. He directs all aspects of the organization. He's accountable for strategic planning and turning neighborhood of circumstances into neighborhood of choices. As the Senior Project Manager at the Waterbury Development Corporation, also known as WDC, he supervised and managed various projects for the city of Waterbury, including $36 million restoration of the historic City Hall. This building actually was designed by renowned architect Cass Gilbert, and I encourage folks to visit the building. It's beautiful. In just 2 years at the WDC, Kevin Taylor built and led one of the region's leading brownfield cleanup programs, garnering national attention and millions in state and federal grants in Waterbury. In addition, Kevin played an instrumental role in the city's neighborhood revitalization efforts, both in the north and the south ends of Waterbury. Mr. Taylor also funded Mesh Architecture, a design-oriented practice focused on modern design and urban planning. So making his home in the house he grew up in, Kevin is married to his best friend, attorney Kathy Taylor, and they have 3 children, twin boys and a daughter. Kevin is going to highlight some of our current and future initiatives, including a glimpse into our rebrand. Kevin?
Oh, welcome, and thank you everyone for attending, and Maybeth, thank you for that intro. I always find it hard to hear about myself, so I'm trying to get used to that a little bit. But anyway, one of the things that Maybeth stated in that intro, she mentioned my best friend, who is my wife, my rock, my better half, and I support her to the fullest. And with that being said, she is terming out as a board president of the Connecticut Community Foundation, and there is an event / dinner taking place tonight. So as much as NHSW means to me, my being there in her moment of recognition is just as important, if not more important, because I don't want to sleep on the couch tonight if I'm not there. So I will need to leave early, which is why I have to, I'm going first rather than typically going last, and Rachel Guess, who's the board president, usually goes first. So you know what, you talk about technical difficulties. I'm on my laptop and it just told me that my battery is dying. So if you can just give me 1 second so I can plug in real quick so I don't die out here in the middle of my talk. I appreciate that for bearing with me. All right, we're all set now. So once again, welcome. And I just want to, here at NHS of Waterbury, we deal with housing, and research has found that new housing brings down prices. And this makes intuitive sense, because if new housing is built, most of the people who move in first vacate other units, and then those units then become available to newcomers and so on. Or look at from what the experience has been during the pandemic, where rent and mortgage protection kept people housed, rental units and homes for sale became scarce, and rents increased up to 50% in some cases, and home prices saw record highs. So solving a supply problem is, of course, harder than making the number of homes equal the number of people. But the fundamental point is that we need more homes near good jobs and schools, and that people have access to the communities and amenities that make life more enjoyable. And to expound a little bit on that, here at Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury, we need more quality housing in Black and Brown communities that have not seen much investment over the years, and which is one of the reasons why we focus a majority of our real estate development efforts in the Crown Brook neighborhood in Waterbury, Connecticut, in the north end of Waterbury. So I just want to touch upon a couple of programs or our departments here and what we've been doing past year, this year, and things moving forward in 2023. So I'm going to start with the housing counseling, which is led by Maria Rivera and also supported by Maritza Ramirez and Rachel Foster, and various other staff members. I'm going to get into it because that department has grown tremendously over the years. So unfortunately, I'm not going to mention everyone's name, but I just do want to let everyone know that you play a huge, important role in the success of this organization and to help with the Unite CT and My Home CT program. So as you know, when the pandemic hit, there was a concern about people losing their homes, whether that was a unit that they were renting, an apartment that they were renting, or a home that they owned. And so there was a lot of protections put in place by the federal government. And one of those programs was the Unite CT, which was led by the Department of Housing here in the state of Connecticut. And it was an emergency rental and utility assistance program supporting Connecticut residents who were negatively impacted by COVID-19. And so prior to this program, we had a staff or prior to the pandemic, we had a staff of about 8.5 employees here. That was the size of our team. And because of the Unite CT program, because of the need that was required here in the state to address, we jumped up to 55 employees at our highest point. And out of those 55 employees, we were able to process 10,378 applications and 7,806 of those were funded. These numbers are somewhat old. I don't have the most recent ones, but I would say these numbers probably go back to September, but the team has still continued to work with the Unite CT program, and it is going to expand into 2023 to assist those who are facing eviction. And then also we have the My Home CT program, which is led by CHFA, and that was established to mitigate financial hardships associated with the coronavirus pandemic by providing funds to eligible homeowners for the purpose of preventing homeowner mortgage delinquencies, defaults, foreclosures, loss of utilities and home energy services, and displacement. And that just kicked up not too long ago. And once again, will be a program moving into 2023. So if you know of anyone who owns a home and is struggling with their payments, maybe facing a foreclosure, definitely have them reach out to us. And of course, if you know of anyone facing an eviction, they can definitely reach out to us as well, and we can put them in front of the right folks to apply for funding to keep them housed. From a real estate development standpoint, which I guess in the past has kind of been led by me for the most part, but we do have someone new on board, Tashina Pemberton. She's a newbie to the affordable housing arena, but is a fast learner and has been helping me out with the real estate development stuff, and eventually will fully take that over. But we have two exciting projects that I just want to bring to everyone's attention. Not to say that our Adams Street project is not exciting, and we do have the funding for that moving forward. But I think one project here that is significant in the north end of Waterbury, and I think will be a huge game changer for the Crown Brook neighborhood, is 526 North Main Street, which you can see in the picture on the lower or in the left-hand side. This is an old Waterbury manufacturing Chase rolling mill facility compound. It's only one that currently remains largely intact. The site was used for industrial purposes since at least 1853, but the Chase rolling mill was built in 1900, and it is 6 stories, consists of 186,620 square feet, and is sited on 4.3 acres. And one of the nicest assets to this property is that it has a water feature, a river that runs through it. Well, maybe not a river, but a stream that runs through, and it also has a waterfall feature. So our goal, and hopefully in the next 3 or 4 years, trying to move this at a fast pace, is to convert it to a mixed-use, mixed-income property consisting of approximately 90 plus units. And it would include a market, a fitness center, a coffee shop, cafe, a child care facility, are some of the things that we are talking about, and will be a huge asset as far as the commercial and retail space to support the community and the needs of the community, and especially bringing a housing component just as well. And I want to thank the Connecticut Community Foundation, Ion Bank, NeighborWorks America, and Thomaston Savings Bank for providing us the funding to do the feasibility study. The next stage is that we're going to apply for funding to actually do the construction documents, architects and engineers to put the drawings together so that eventually we can apply for construction dollars in 2023. And right now it is estimated that this project is going to cost us $60 million. The other one I want to talk about, which is new, definitely new for us, because this is the first time that we as an organization have stepped foot out of Waterbury with our real estate development efforts, is the Winstead Health Center. This is formerly the Winstead Memorial Hospital, which was constructed in 1957, and it closed down in 1996, or closed in 1996. It is currently used by several medical providers and the VA, and it is also a site for VA healthcare. And this is, I'll round up to 79,000 square feet, and it sits on 11.9 acres. And the goal for this project is that we are going to repurpose this for veteran housing and various other support services on the lower floors, which will provide for job training, economic development, things along those lines. And this project is expected to cost us slightly over $20 million. Other thing I want to talk about is our community building and engagement. This department is managed by Ian Blake. Ian has done a fabulous job. He started out with NHS of Waterbury as an intern and came on part-time after his internship, and then came full-time and has helped out in various different ways. And one of the things that he has grown has been our outreach in the Crown Brook neighborhood community. And one of the two things I want to highlight is first the community garden, which is located on Burton Street. I want to thank first and foremost Habitat for Humanities, Lowe's, and Wells Fargo. We received $55,000 from Lowe's and Wells Fargo that combined. So in total, they gave us $55,000 plus the in-kind services of Habitat for Humanities to improve the garden. So there's still some work to do, but if you take a drive by, you'll see that we have a new pergola up. We have a storage container which has some artwork on it. We have new fencing. We have a greenhouse. We are, come the spring, we're going to have a plant bed or new plant beds. I believe the amount is 30 plus plant beds. We're going to have some seating for folks there in the garden. And we're also going to do some beekeeping there. And we're also going to sell some of the produce and the honey to the community at a very low price, and so that the food can, so that the community can have access to healthy food. And then also those in the neighborhood can do their own planting in the community garden just as well. The other thing I wanted to stress or bring to your attention is our resident leadership training program. We have now partnered with Bridge to Success, Waterbury Bridge to Success, with their Boost Community School Initiative. And with that, we will be providing resident leadership training to the parents from a pre-K to 8 school. And I believe the first school that we're going to be working with is Duggan. And then that will expand into other schools in 2024, I believe, or possibly 2023, but definitely in 2024. So Ian has done an excellent job with that program, and it is growing. And I just wanted to highlight those two things. And then also just mention the amount of volunteers and partners that have come to support our community building and engagement efforts. Over the years, it has just grown tremendously. I really don't know the number at this point, but if there's ever a need, if there's ever a desire or assistance and help that is needed, we have so many partners and volunteers that are willing to come out and just lend a hand to making the quality of life in the Crown Brook neighborhood better. And then, as Maybeth mentioned, or you can see on the screen because she did go back, so thank you, Maybeth, for that, is rebranding. So neighborhood housing services has been around since 1980. I do not think that, no, let me put it this way. It's a long name. And in a lot of cases, people don't even remember it or say it right. Sometimes people think that we are the housing authority. The fact that it has Waterbury in it, people think that we only serve Waterbury, which in fact we serve 40 plus towns and cities all the way up to Torrington, or west of Route 8, all the way up to Torrington and down to Bridgeport or Danbury. And so we wanted a name that first and foremost didn't define us to a specific geographic area, but also talked about, or maybe was more representative of the services that we provide, or the broad amount of services that we provide. So we are in the process of a rebranding at this point in time. The goal right now is that the new name, the new logo and all that, and the new website will launch in January of 2023. We're still striving for that goal. I think we will get there probably about 85% way there, and maybe the website might, still may need some updating and changes to the website. But that would take place, maybe late January, February, and then that will launch. The new website will launch. So be patient with us, but it's an exciting process. I'm excited about it. I think everyone, the team is excited about it. The board is excited about it. I think it is time. I think as an organization, we have grown, and this name no longer fits what we are currently about. And because we're doing the rebranding, we had to hold off on a program that we wanted to launch earlier this year, well, not earlier this year, but in the fall of this year, which was our revolving loan fund. And so because we were changing the name, we didn't want to put something out there and then have to kind of pull it back, and because it's now going to have a new name and associated with it rather than Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury. So definitely excited about that. And I definitely want to thank two funders for that, which is the Lever Foundation and the Connecticut Community Foundation, who provided us a tremendous amount of dollars to be able to get the program off and going as far as lending is concerned to low and moderate income people here in the city of Waterbury. And with that being said, that concludes my talk for this evening. I thank you for your time. And I just once again want to give special thanks to the board. I want to give a special thanks to the team who's here with me on the day-to-day and who has made this organization and the programs that we offer to folks successful. And I also want to give a shout out and a thanks to NeighborWorks America, who we are an affiliate of, and who is one of our major funders and provides a lot of resources and support to this agency to allow us to do what we do on the day-to-day here in the city of Waterbury and throughout the state of Connecticut. So thank you very much, everyone. Greatly appreciate your time. I do have to run, and I look forward to next year when we won't be doing this virtually, but we'll be in person. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the annual meeting.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's really exciting to share all of the amazing projects and initiatives that NHS is working on with you all. So thanks, Kevin. And really quick, also want to give a shout out to American Savings Foundation, who did also fund the revolving loan fund. So thank you. Okay. So back in 2021, we worked with Maya Suri Gray of Viewfinder Films to create a documentary shedding light on the current state of the housing market here in Waterbury, Connecticut. In this 30-minute film, hot topics like redlining, revitalization of neighborhoods, and the housing crisis are all highlighted. So let's enjoy the first few minutes of the film, I Want to Buy a House, together. We will drop the link for the full video in the chat.
Government the same amount of money. Real property that has some value, that allows you to use that as an asset and to build wealth. Something that you can hand down to your children when you pass on the road, you know, you want to downsize, you move to another location. That
stays within the family. Really the fastest way to build wealth. To some extent, probably the safest way to build wealth.
All right, so I'm getting some messages that the sound is not working properly, so I apologize in advance. We will send out a link to the full video at the end of the presentation, so you guys can view that on your own. But it really is a fabulous video. And again, I want to thank Maya Gray for working with us. She's a local film producer, singer, and songwriter. And so we're happy to also, you know, to uplift local folks doing really great things. Okay, so apologies again for that, but we'll get that video link to you guys. Let's make some noise for Ginny Monk, who's our special guest tonight. Ginny is the Connecticut Mirror's Children's Issues and Housing reporter, as well as a Report for America Corps member. She covers a range of topics from child welfare to affordable housing and zoning. Ginny grew up in Arkansas and graduated from the University of Arkansas Lemke School of Journalism in 2017. She began her career at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, where she covered housing, homelessness, and juvenile justice on the investigations team. Along the way, Ginny was awarded a 2019 Data Fellowship through the Annenberg Center for Health Journalism at the University of Southern California. She moved to Connecticut in 2021 and covered housing for Hearst Connecticut Media. So welcome, Ginny. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Housing is just one of my favorite things to talk about. So getting to talk with you all who are interested in housing is really exciting. So I'm going to be talking to you about evictions today. As Maybeth said, I come from sort of a background of covering housing in Arkansas and then moved to Connecticut right as the Supreme Court overturned the CDC eviction moratorium in 2021. And so I've been covering evictions here in Connecticut since then. And the last 6 months I've spent reporting a project on the effects of eviction on children and families. So I've got a quote here from Matthew Desmond: "Eviction is a cause." Oh, sorry, can you go back one? Thank you. Is a cause, not just a condition of poverty. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. This is from his book, Evicted. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. All right, I'm ready for the next one. Thank you so much. So first, this is a super simplified version, explanation of how evictions work. So missed rent is just sort of an example here. It's the most common reason evictions are filed. 11 days after a missed rental payment, a landlord can give a notice to quit. Now, a notice to quit is not an order from the court to leave. It is just the landlord saying, I want you out by this date. If the tenant does not leave by this date, then a court filing can occur. That's an eviction suit in court, and the tenant is given a court date. When they get to court, they have a housing mediation with a court-appointed mediator, and they either reach an agreement there or the case is heard before a judge. Now, like I said, this is a very simple explanation. Often these cases are much more winding, a lot more filings, a lot more back and forth between tenants and landlords. I've talked to a couple people who even have had multiple eviction filings from the same landlord, because they'll have an eviction filing, they'll work it out, they'll make the payments, and then they'll fall back behind again. It's quite easy for people to fall behind. All right, next one. I think one of the things that's most important to discuss when we're talking about evictions is who gets evicted. So first of all, data and national studies show us that women are evicted more often than men. There's a few reasons for this. Research shows women tend to earn less money than men, so it's easier for them to fall behind. There's also some gender dynamics at play in which women, often dealing with male landlords, tend to sort of try to work out a solution on their own. rather than coming to a landlord early on. And that's also covered in Evicted, Matthew Desmond's books. People of color are evicted a lot more often than their white counterparts. Women of color are the most at risk of eviction, and children often face eviction. Now, I did not put get evicted because children are not listed on eviction filings. This makes it a little bit harder to know the exact number of children who face eviction, but we know from research that they do face eviction, and that often some of the reasons for an eviction are related to the presence of children in the home. So, for example, there tends to be more scrutiny of housing conditions when children are in a home. There can be more crowding and damage to the unit because of that overcrowding. So these are just a few of the reasons there. Next slide. Awesome. All right, evictions in Waterbury. Waterbury is one of the 5 cities on the Eviction Lab's list of top evicting cities in the country. It's ranked at number 22. And I guess those red numbers are a little difficult to see, but you can see evictions sort of dropping during the pandemic. As I mentioned, that's largely due to the Supreme Court and state level protections during the pandemic. So you can kind of see that drop in 2020 and a little bit of rise in 2021. And if you'll go, I think it's on the next slide, you'll see, yeah, what's happening now. Across the state, evictions are up. In Waterbury, as of November, filings had reached 1,754 with more than a month left in the year. Now, I did the math on that, and that does put it on track to reach the highest number of filings in Waterbury since 2017, which is the furthest back there's like very reliable data on evictions. There's a few reasons that evictions are up. In talking to experts, they've sort of talked about how people are still recovering financially from the pandemic. There's not much rental aid available anymore. As I'm sure you're all aware, Unite CT is no longer taking applications, although they are planning with some additional funding to start doling out rental assistance to people who are in court for an eviction hearing. So sort of as part of the court mediation, I'm happy to answer any questions I can about that. So all of these reasons, evictions rising. So there are also, I'm going to talk about a couple people I know here. This is a photo of Christine Pisani, who I have known almost a year now, since she was part of a tenants union that formed at apartments in Bloomfield, Connecticut. Christine and her 2 daughters were evicted over the summer, and this, witnessing all of the effects that this had on them was sort of a gut punch for me. First of all, I'm going to talk about some of the health impacts. Now, there are sort of 2 ways I think about the ways in which health and evictions are tied together. First of all, Christine and her family were living in apartment conditions that had code violations and simply weren't safe for her kids. Her baby had broken out in a rash, had a seizure for the first time following a gas leak at the apartment. And her teenager, after the eviction was filed, started experiencing some pretty intense anxiety about switching schools, which she did wind up having to do. And it was particularly difficult for her teenager because she has some intellectual disabilities and sort of struggles socially. So she was super established in her old school and wound up having to switch. The family has also had to sort of reconfigure how they get transportation to school, work, daycare, doctor's appointments, because they moved to a new city and they don't have a car. So this is a very big deal in their lives, which I think can be perhaps difficult for those of us who do have cars to understand, but it's very important, to be near a bus line. I talked a little bit about education, quality of housing. Another thing to note about evictions is that often when people are evicted, they're forced into sort of worse housing because there are fewer landlords who will rent to them, so they can't be choosy about which apartments they decide to rent. Ability to find housing later, this is a very big deal that can affect people for a really, really long time. Perhaps everyone here knows this, but the online filings are available for several years after an eviction, regardless of whether the tenant is actually evicted, if they work it out, or even if they win their case in front of a judge. So in one example of a family I talked to, her name is Karen. She has 7 children. She was evicted for lapse of time several months ago and still has not found a place to live. She and her kids are in some transitional housing. And I say her kids, I mean 4 of her kids. She had some adult children living with her who had to find a new place to stay because they couldn't fit that many kids in the transitional housing. So it also sort of disrupted their family unit, which has been particularly distressing for her toddler. All right, next slide. Yeah, so I hate to talk about a problem without talking about some of the solutions that have been proposed. I will say across the board, people have told me that more rental assistance is needed. And when I say people, I mean advocates, I mean attorneys, experts, and tenants themselves have said what it really needs is more money, which sort of brings me to Donna and her family. Donna lives with her daughter and granddaughter. They also are part of a tenant union organizing movement and had received a notice to quit. And this was really distressing for them for several reasons. And one of them I want to talk about is I think often when people hear about housing conditions that are poor or eviction, they think, why don't you just move? For this family, that would be very difficult. Moving is expensive. Again, the school districts are important. The access to transportation is really important for this family. So moving is just not an option unless they were given some rental assistance. So that's something that Donna has really pushed for. Some folks have advocated for more protections against no-cause evictions or lapse of time. And then there's also sort of a growing tenant union organizing across the state of Connecticut. So a few months ago, when I wrote about this, there were 6 that had formed, and since then I know of at least 2 more that have formed. So it's really something that's growing of tenants sticking together and sort of trying to work with their landlords and figure out how to resolve these issues. Next slide. So this is a little bit of a longer quote, and I wanted to include this because I think several of the things we've talked about are sort of practical considerations that are related to housing and to home. But home is not just the place that you live. I'll read this quote. The home is the center of life. It is a refuge from the grind of work, the pressure of school, and the menace of the streets. We say that at home we can be ourselves. Everywhere else we are someone else. At home we remove our masks. The home is the wellspring of personhood. It is where our identity takes root and blossoms, where as children we imagine, play, and question, and as adolescents we retreat and try. As we grow older, we hope to settle into a place to raise a family or pursue work. When we try to understand ourselves, we often begin by considering the kind of home in which we were raised. So something throughout this 6-month reporting project that I've asked everyone is, what did you take from your home? And I'm not asking about these big expensive items or very practical medications, documents sort of things, but what did you take to make your new place feel like home? By and large, these have been emotional answers. So candles related to my faith, photos of my family, drawings that my children made, toys that were important to kids because kids like toys and because they were given to them by someone they loved. So I think that's to say there are a lot of practical considerations in an eviction that are very important to think about and talk about. but there's also a real emotional connection to what we call home. And that affects, I think, mental health as well as a person's sense of themselves. Eviction is the reality for a lot of Connecticut residents. I've seen the effects on them, and it can last a really long time. So if anybody has questions, I've included a link. My project is coming out in a couple of weeks, so if you want to sign up to get notified when it publishes, please do. I would love it.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So we're going to open the chat box for questions if they're related to Jenny's reporting. Housing, evictions, educations are the topics that she mostly reports on. So while we're waiting for a few questions, Jenny, I did want to ask you, you noted how children are not added to the eviction filings, which I'm like, oh my God, wow, why not, right? Like, to me, it's like, why not? So can you talk a little bit about any reporting you've done that shows the intersectionality between housing and education for children?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, to that first point, children are not included on the eviction filing because they're not on the lease. And I think often that's sort of good for them because they don't get put into this online system that will make it really hard for them to find housing. But for those of us interested in information, it does make it really difficult to know precisely how many kids are affected by eviction. There's national research that sort of takes educated guesses, I'll say, on that. That's not the correct term in research, but it's the one I'll use. And yeah, so education and eviction, there's research that shows after the 2008 housing crisis, kids who faced foreclosure or disruption of home, quite similar to eviction, tested lower on standardized testing than kids who had stable housing. So that's sort of one portion. Another is that your whole life is disrupted. For kids, school is super important, and they often form their social relationships based on where they live. So kids need that routine. They want to be around their friends, and it's really difficult for them when that's disrupted. And, it's hard to learn when you're thinking about, where am I going to sleep when I go home tonight? So it's not just the disruption to sort of routine and even having to switch school districts, which for the family I spoke about before, their eviction occurred during the summer. So it was just right before she was supposed to start high school that they wound up moving to a new town because of the eviction. But it's also just that it's hard to go to school and think about fractions when you're worried about food and basic needs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, housing is definitely the intersection for so many aspects of our lives, right? Which is why the focus on housing is so, the lens is there, it's so important that we all have adequate, nice housing, So I'm going to invite Rachel Foster to unmute and share if there's any questions in the chat for Jenny at this time.
Thank you very much, Maybeth. At the time, we don't have any questions. I see, is there a tenant organizing happening in Waterbury currently? That just came up.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any happening in Waterbury. The places I know of it happening are in sort of more New Haven, Hartford, Hamden, Bloomfield areas. That does not mean it's not happening in Waterbury, but if it is, I don't know about it.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for whoever dropped that in the chat. So we'll move on, but of course the chat box is open. If folks have any questions that they're thinking about afterward, please drop them in there and we will we'll review any questions towards the end of our program. But thank you so much again, Jenny, for your presentation. That was really great. It's really interesting, right, to see all of that current eviction data and realize what that means for Connecticut families. And I hope that we all can use that knowledge and help advocate for others who are facing eviction here in the state.
Thank you so much.
All right. So next, I would like to welcome Maria Rivera, NHSW Supervisor of Housing, Counseling, and Education. Ms. Rivera has over 20 years of experience working in the nonprofit sector. She holds various professional certifications and was named Program Partner of the Year in 2017, for demonstrating an outstanding commitment to the community she serves from the workplace of Southern Connecticut's Regional Workforce Development Board. That was a mouthful. She holds a bachelor's degree in human services from Springfield College, the School of Professional Development and Continuing Studies, and she has a passion for learning in order to help others. Ms. Rivera feels that the more she learns, the more she can give to clients, families, and communities she serves. Maria is going to share a story with you all, a story of fear, education, and motivation. Maria?
Thank you, Maybeth, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. So I just want to read our story from one of our clients that I've worked with to show you the impact, and if it's just the smallest of impact that we make at NHS of Waterbury to assist our clients in making one of the biggest decisions of their lives, is just kudos to us for guiding and providing the resources that the clients need in order to get there. So my story is about my client. Her name is Ms. Sarita Harris, and her family. They were facing what many families were facing today in Connecticut, right? A low housing stock, sky high market rate rent. However, things began to change when Harris and her family moved from New Haven to Waterbury 7 years ago. When the rental market in Waterbury was less expensive. It allowed Ms. Harris to save some money for a down payment on her first home. With money in her bank now, Ms. Harris was eager to start the home buying process, but according to her, she was in a gray area, unsure where to start. YouTube was her first attempt at learning more about the process, but the streaming plan platform videos were mostly for experienced investors or gurus, those who had already owned a home or were looking to flip a home. There wasn't a basic video of starting from the bottom, like getting your credit together, having a solid savings account that shows the process to it when you get ready to get pre-approved. You can show you have income, says Ms. Harris. Searching the internet, Ms. Harris found our agency, NHSW, and signed up for an 8-hour home buyer education workshop. And then received one-on-one counseling from our agency, for myself. Taking the course and having the one-on-one with a certified HUD housing counselor like myself and Rachel, Harris discovered that she had more relevant information and was more equipped with the tools and confidence necessary for her homeownership journey. When she sat down with me and we reviewed her utilities, what she was paying on rent, we looked at her budget, her credit utilization, and how to bring it down, then she states that that encouragement and having that one-on-one person saying, you're doing good, you have what you know what you're doing, just keep working on your credit and savings. It was motivating to her. Ms. Harris says that in 2020, she purchased her first multifamily home in Waterbury, still references the materials that she utilized from our 8-hour home buyer education workshop, and speaks to me anytime she has questions about being a landlord and tenant questions. Her experience at NHS and the importance of owning a home has been shared with her daughters, who are now 13 and 18 years old. Ms. Harris says that her 18-year-old daughter, or she says to her 18-year-old daughter, you never have to rent. I inform her for the past years that I spend paying someone else's mortgage. Now that I have the education, you don't have to do that. She explained to her daughter that you can buy a turnkey home, one family home, and rent out rooms to your friends for passive income. That is life changing. And so that is the story of my client who came and, she took our home buy education workshop. She worked really, really hard. And to this day, I had a conversation with her a couple of weeks ago, and she says, the information, the tools that you provided me with, that's something that will last a lifetime. It's something that you don't learn. Some parents don't teach you how to budget. Some parents don't teach you how to save. It's something that she had to learn on her own. And when she came to our agency, it sort of helped to put that together so that she can now continue that for herself and for her daughters. So I want to say that if you have anyone who is looking to purchase a home, send them my way, because we would love to work with them to get them ready to purchase their, make this huge investment. Probably one of the biggest investments they'll ever have to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Our team works tirelessly to help families like Sarita's, right? And so we look forward to engaging with more community members to assist them with their goals. All right, so our last speaker this evening is Rachel Guest, the president of the NHS Board of Directors. Rachel Guest is the director of the Silas Bronson Library, Waterbury's public library. She was previously the executive director, curator of the Cornwall Historical Society, curator at Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum in Norwalk, and the associate curator at the Mattituck Museum in Waterbury. Ms. Guest is a historian and has written extensively about Waterbury's history. She lives in one of the historic Scoville Row homes in the Wow neighborhood. Please help me welcome Rachel.
Thanks, Maybeth. So the recap for 2021 seems so far away. The Unite CT program, I think Jenny's presentation really drives home the importance of that program. The pandemic had a massive economic impact on thousands of people in Connecticut, all over the country. So the Unite CT program is that partnership that Kevin talked about, the partnership with the Department of Housing on behalf of the U.S. Treasury to administer the Unite CT program, which provided up to $15,000 in rental and electricity payment assistance on behalf of Connecticut households financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This is supporting both the tenants and the landlords, helping everyone through this crisis. This was something that was and continues to be something that is incredibly important. And became a real main focus. Kevin again talked about, at our peak, we had 55 people working for NHS after 8.5 people before the pandemic. And I touched on this last year as well, that it is really a credit to Kevin and everyone who works at NHS that they recognized not only this opportunity, but the need that is ongoing here in Connecticut, and we're able to make this happen and to help so many people. So as you see there, 2,743 applications processed, 2,442 funded, 2.5 million total dollars awarded, which is really tremendous. Throughout 2021, and again, I feel like I'm just touching on everything Kevin said, but we serve 52 cities and towns. So it's much more than just NHS of Waterbury. It is really a regional service that we have here. 99 homeowners created or preserved. And, if you've been paying attention at all to what's been going on in the real estate market, that's something that is increasingly a challenge with the cost of housing. So that's a huge area to be helping people with. 694 residents counseled, educated. We have 2,100 volunteer hours So thank you to everyone who volunteers with NHS for all of their support of the organization, for making the magic happen. The financials overview, it's a little bit small there, but the net assets at the beginning of 2021 were about 2.4 million. And at the end of 2021, I believe that number is 2.7 million, 1.3 million in revenue and 1.1 million in expenses. So the numbers are pretty dry, but I think they go to support the stories that we've heard tonight, those personal stories, the impact and the importance of home for everyone, not just in Waterbury, but in Connecticut at large. So again, thank you to our volunteers, thank you to our donors, thank you to our board for their commitment to the organization, and to everyone for their support and participation. Maybeth?
Thank you so much, Rachel. Appreciate it. So for folks interested in learning more about our last fiscal year, please visit our website to view the 2021 full annual report. And again, that link is nhswaterbury.org. So you've heard about our last fiscal year, our current and future initiatives, our program updates, and client success stories, right? So what's next? If you're trying to determine how you can best uplift our work, have no fear. As I close, I'm going to share a few opportunities where you can do just that. The first thing to do is sign. Oh, I skipped a slide. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Sign up. Okay. So sign up for our email list, right? That's really simple. When you join the email list, you will automatically receive communications from NHS about our free workshops, our class schedules, any office, scheduling changes. Plus, you'll also receive our quarterly newsletter, all of our community activities, events, and more. And you can sign up right on our website. And again, the website is nhswaterbury.org. And we will drop these links in the chat as well. So you can also advocate on behalf of NHS, on behalf of our mission and our services. This can take shape in several ways. You can repost, share, like, comments on our social or from our social media pages to yours. That's something really simple and quick to do. You can talk about NHS's free services with your family, your friends, neighbors, even on the golf course. That's a simple one. You can hang NHS flyers in your place of business or worship. And you can also join your local board of aldermen meetings, right? And you can advocate on behalf of more affordable housing in your city or on behalf of equitable, fair housing practices as well. So please reach out to me directly if you want to talk more about how you can advocate for more affordable housing and for NHS in general. So everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to know how your subject and your verb agree to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics and physics to serve. You only need a full heart of grace, a soul generated by love. And that's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King that I wanted to share. And we need your heart. We need your support. We need you to volunteer with NHSW. We have a bunch of different opportunities to get involved with our work and our mission, from joining a committee that might meet once a month or quarterly, a year, to helping us at a community event. There are plenty of ways to support and volunteer. So please visit our website again at the CB&E volunteer page and fill out an electronic form, and a staff member will return and follow up with your message. So NHS is really active on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So please follow us on our channels. You can find NHS by searching our name right in the search bar. So it's at the @ NHS Waterbury, all is one word. And donate. Today, on Giving Tuesday, any day. We ask you to consider making a financial gift of any size to NHSW to help us reach our mission. You can donate via our website, again, nhswaterbury.org/donation to make a gift, or you also can send a cash or check directly to our office. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Before we do that, I just want to check in again real quick with Rachel Foster and see if there was any questions that came back through in the chat.
We don't have any questions at this time. I do want to remind everyone that all of the links that were announced are available in the chat box, also including the presentation link from our guest, Ginny. If you have any questions that is pertaining to the presentation for today, feel free to get in contact with Maybeth. Her information is also included as a link here in the chat box, or you can also give us a call here at Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury, and I will also include our office contact information in the chat box. Are there any questions at this point? You can put them in the chat box, and we'll make sure that any of our guests and presenters are available and they'll be able to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So we'll follow up with any questions that may arrive in the chat box. I do want to take this opportunity to thank all of our speakers for your insight, for your presentations tonight. Thank you to our NHS staff and board members for your dedication, to your commitment to our mission. And thank all of you. Thank you guys for being here, for taking time out of your busy day to learn more about our work. And we will continue revitalizing the community together. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks.
Windows and doors, equity investment and wealth being stored. I wanna buy a house, I don't wanna rent. Either way I gotta pay, but it makes more sense. More than just walls, windows and doors, equity investment and wealth being stored. Kids playing tag in the backyard, holidays spent with your loved ones. I love you. Without foundation.